And it was just another day, yeah.
Just another day.
Until I went to the movies, and now it's a movie Tuesday. A movie Tuesday. Until a movie Tuesday.
Yellow, and welcome to Movie Tuesday. I would first like to thank you all for your patience. This is a special Movie Tuesday. It's episode 30, XXX. We finally got to the porno, people, and I appreciate you. So I wanted to do something a little special for this video. So, as you can see, for the viewers out there, don't worry, audio listeners, I got something for you too. But for the viewers out there, you know, just change the setting a little bit. Nothing too big. I just moved the whole setup from my desk over to my shelf so that there's a different view. You can see my wall that's in progress right now. This isn't going to be like a new thing or a normal thing as far as I know, just because there's a lot more setup that goes involved with this. I got to deal with the lighting. I got to deal with lighting from outside and stuff like that. I got to deal with having that couch behind me cleaned, which is very hard to do because I don't have full reign over that couch. There's a lot of times where there's just as much clutter on the couch as there is on my desk. The only difference is I can control the clutter on the desk. I'm just lazy. But the clutter on the couch is out of my control. And we're not going to mention any names or anything like that. Just know that it's not my responsibility to keep that couch clean all the time. So, you know, there's that. Maybe like in the future we could try this setup. I would like to get my wall finished first. There's a lot of decorative pieces I'd like to add to the wall, but for now, you know, you can just see like the precursor of it all. Anywho, we got some things planned for this video. We're gonna keep to the normal shit. We're gonna do the movie news, the trailers, and movies in general with the whole discussion and all that. In between the whole like segment and shit of the news and all that stuff, I'm gonna have a little bit of movie clips, not like actual movie clips, but I'm just gonna do my whole impersonation type of things from the movies. That's where my audio listeners get their little treats because they get to see my famous impressions that they love so much. That was a joke. Anyway, in between segments, I'm gonna do like some impersonations, some lines from some movies, and then basically that's gonna incorporate into the contest to where you can enter and win a prize. And I will show you or tell you, well, I will tell you and show you how to get that prize at the end of the video, but you have to stay tuned to the end of the video. Or you could just be smart and skip all the way to the end and try to find it where I explain how to win the free shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you're probably wondering, you know, like movie clips, blah, 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 what's he gonna do? Let me show you right now.
No. Turn around. Do it decimo. Do it very slowly.
Did you get that? Can you figure it out? Well, keep it to yourself for now, because there's gonna be more, and then at the very end, you know, we got to put all that together. So, and that's just one piece of how to win the contest. So you gotta stay tuned to hear the rest of the pieces that you need to do to win that sweet, sweet loot. Okay, without further ado, let us get to the news of Movie Tuesday. So, sorry to start it off on a somber note, but you know, and by the way, this is mostly going to be some old news just because I had to take a week off to get all this shit done. But I still want to talk about it anyway because everybody knows that I don't give a fuck, and there ain't that many people that listen to or watch this, so I can talk about whatever I want without having to worry about any consequences. So anyway, getting to the news, starting off on a somber note, we've lost another actor in our midst. Rest in peace to a Michael Nyqvist. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. For some reason, I wanted to say Michelle because he is Swedish, or he was Swedish. But I was looking at like Wikipedia and stuff like that, and it seems like it says it's pronounced Michael, or maybe like Michael. But anyway, he passed away recently. age 56, lost a horrible battle to lung cancer. So lung cancer strikes again, and that's really sad. So, you know, as usual, thoughts and prayers go to his friends, his family, left behind 2 kids. It's very, very tragic news. And I normally don't like when people talk about people who are like, you know, what are they like? You know, somebody's like 60 or like 70 years old and they're just like, oh, they were so young. And I'm just like, what the fuck do you consider old, dude? Because, you know, I feel like when you're past 50, I feel like you're considered old, you know? But when I saw that he was 56, I was just kind of like, yeah, it's like, he wasn't young, but there was still like a good chunk of life left on him, you know, to where he could have lived out and did some shit. And he actually did do a lot of shit, you know, in his career. I didn't watch like everything that he was a part of. The main thing that I know him from is the girl with the dragon tattoo movies. I know him from there because I remember watching those. And then obviously I know him mostly from the John Wick movie because he was the main baddie in that. I think his name was like Vigo. So I remember him from that. And that movie right there, like his part in that movie, I loved, man. So I'm always gonna enjoy watching his part in that movie. Like nothing beats that scene where and this isn't counted towards the whole movie thing for the contest, but I like the part in the movie where he calls up John Leguizamo and he's like, I heard you hit my son. And he's like, yes sir, I did. And he's like, why? And he was like, well, you know, he came in, he stole John Wick's car, and he killed his dog. And he was like, oh. And he just hangs it up. Like, that was the best, dude. I'm pretty sure that was before all the shit went down, like the first scene where Keanu's like running around the house shooting everybody. I'm pretty sure it happened before that. So like when I'm watching the movie, I'm kind of just like, all right, guys, like what am I watching here? But as soon as they showed that part where he says "oh" and he hangs up the phone, I was like, okay, I'm sold. This movie's gonna be awesome. Like I know exactly what they're trying to do. This is great, you know. But yeah, man, he's gonna be missed. You know the weird thing is too, going back to John Wick real quick. It's funny that in chapter 2 of John Wick, they have that character's brother, and his brother is played by Peter Stormare. And it's funny that they use that actor because for some odd reason, I get Michael Nyqvist confused with Peter Stormare. I don't know why. It's just something weird about it. Like I don't really feel like they look anything like each other, but there's something about their faces and like their whole cadence that just reminds me of one and the other, you know? So it was kind of cool that they actually got Peter Stormare to play the brother in John Wick 2. So that was crazy. But yeah, man, horrible loss. Like I said, thoughts and prayers, my condolences to friends and family. But the show must go on. So moving on to the next segment of the news. This is a pretty big segment. So here's the thing. So Venom has been confirmed as to not be a part of the MCU. If you see me looking off to the side like this, is because that's where my notes are. I need my notes to stay on track here. So Venom has been confirmed by Kevin Feige or Feige. Someone needs to tell me how to pronounce his damn name, or otherwise I'm going to keep on doing that. He confirmed that Venom is not part of the MCU. So now we're getting into the weeds here of what the fuck is going on over at Sony and what's going on at Marvel Studios. Because the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, Mr. John Watts, has said earlier in the year that they were like, the Venom, we don't have any plans for Venom. Venom has nothing to do with my movie. I'm focusing on Spider-Man right now. We ain't worried about Venom, right? And I think this was around the time when Sony confirmed that they were making a Venom movie. And then Kevin Feige or Feige went on record to say that they have no plans to do anything with Venom as well. So then there's this interview with Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige or Feige talking about Spider-Man Homecoming and talking about Venom and how and if they plan on incorporating Venom into like the MCU, right? And she's all like running off at the mouth talking about, and I talked about this before in the last video, I think. But she's running off at the mouth talking about like, yeah, man, like Venom, like they're all in the MCU, man. They're just adjunct, you know what I mean? Like, Spider-Man's off doing his thing and Venom's off doing his thing, right? So she's just running on and on about like how they're in the same universe. They're just like doing different things on different sides of the city and shit. And Kevin Feige is looking just like, okay, whatever, like, I don't know. And I remember saying that if that wasn't true of him being in the MCU, that Feige or Feige should have said something at that moment and not wait until after to be like, no, like, that's not true. He's not part of the universe and blah, blah, blah. But instead, they ended up, like, setting the record straight later on. And now we're getting into the point, dude, where I'm just like, what the fuck's going on at both of these studios? And why do they keep letting this chick, Amy Pascal, do interviews about like any Marvel movie whatsoever? Because she is now getting into a territory where I don't want to take her seriously, because she seems to be just stirring the pot to garner publicity. And I don't like that. I'm tired of that shit. Okay. It's like, promote your fucking movie and stop trying to like make these controversial statements to like get more news and get more buzz over a movie. Okay. You look desperate when you do that. So, I'm kind of over her now. I heard through the grapevine that she was also the same person that said, what did she say? She said something about like, soon after it was announced that Spider-Man was part of MCU, that they made that, like, that Marvel Studios had made a joint deal with Sony, I heard that she was the person who said that they could take Spider-Man back whenever or some shit like that, like his time was limited in the MCU. And then Marvel Studios came out and made another statement talking about, no, like, we got him, like, we got plans for Spider-Man and shit, like, we got all kind of plans to use him in these movies. We're working on sequels and shit like that. So it's like they just keep going back and forth with this shit, and it's really pissing me off. I'm getting pissed off at both sides. And if I had to guess, I would say that Sony's kind of just having fun with this whole joint deal, because basically what's happening is they have the rights to Spider-Man and all of his villains and shit in his world. Sony does. And Marvel just has this joint deal where they can use Spider-Man like for their own little projects and shit like that. But at the end of the day, like, Sony still owns him. So there is a give and take relationship here. So I feel like what's going on is that Sony's in a position to just say whatever the fuck they want to say to like stir the pot. And Marvel is kind of like in that position where they want to set things clear, but they don't want to flat out be like, stop listening to these motherfuckers. They're lying. Okay. Like, we got control over this shit. It's a joint deal. Like, and because they're both in a position to where like Sony needs Marvel to do whatever they can do with Spider-Man, because they know that they're going to make billions of dollars, which is going to be good for Sony. And Marvel needs to be good with Sony so they can continue to use Spider-Man, so Sony doesn't pull Spider-Man off the table and be like, oh, fuck it, like, you can't use him anymore. So, like, everyone's in a tight position here. But somebody needs to sit down again and be like, okay, guys, look, all this stir the pot shit, all this controversy, can we please stop, But seeing as how that's not happening right now, I feel like Marvel Studios is kind of going along with it, but I don't know, man. It's fucking crazy. And, like, at the end of the day, what I'm really thinking is going on as well, as far as like Venom being in the MCU, is like I said in the last video, where I understand what Amy Pascal is saying, where she's saying that the characters Venom and Spider-Man run adjunct with each other, but they don't interact. I feel like what they're trying to do at the moment over at Sony is just be like, they're trying to do like what Marvel's doing with Netflix, where you have Daredevil, Jessica Jones, or you have the Defenders doing their thing in like one part of New York while the Avengers are off in another part of New York doing whatever, or flying around the world and shit. And for the most part, they're separate. They mention, well, the Defenders universe mentions what's going on in the MCU, but as far as I know, there has never been a mention of the Defenders universe in a MCU movie. So it's like they live in the same universe, but they are in their separate worlds. And I feel like that's what Sony's trying to go for with their Marvel Cinematic Universe compared to the MCU, where it's like they live in the same world, but they're doing their own separate things. And I feel like right now with Marvel Studios, their attention is on Spider-Man. They're trying to like revive that character. And from what I've been hearing through the grapevine, you know, with the advanced screenings of Spider-Man Homecoming, that they're actually doing pretty good. The movie's been getting good reviews. So it seems like they're building that character back up, which is great. And I feel like that's their main concern right now. And then they probably want to wait and see what Sony does with the Venom movie and with the Silver Sable and Black Cat movies. And I feel like if those movies are done, if they're done in a positive light, like if they're received well critically and financially, then like Marvel Studios, I feel, will extend the branch and be like, okay, like let's talk about getting your Venom character over in the MCU, which they're gonna have to do, which brings us into the next news segment. Still dealing with Spider-Man, is that Marvel has come out and said that the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming is gonna be the start of Phase 4 for the MCU. And like I said before, dude, you can't really do a Venom story without involving Spider-Man unless you're just going to like completely retell the Venom story that has nothing to do with Spider-Man. So, and that goes both ways, where it's like you can't really do a Spider-Man story without incorporating Venom, because Venom is such a big part in the Spider-Man lore, you know what I mean? So if they're going to continue to make solo Spider-Man movies, you eventually got to get Venom in there, right? So, but like I said, I feel like they're waiting to see what Sony does with Venom. You know, because if Sony fucks up, then they'll be like, okay, like, you saw what we did with Spider-Man. Give us Venom. We'll help you out, you know, and everything will be good. But if Sony, like, ends up doing really good with their Venom character, then Marvel could be like, okay, like, can we use Venom? So, like, we could, like, bring him into the Spider-Man universe. So, I don't know, man. It's just, it's a real crazy thing. But anyway, the sequel to Homecoming is going to start season 4. Kevin Feige has come out to say that there are going to be like major changes after the whole Infinity War fiasco. And the original idea was that Infinity War was going to be split into 2 movies, but now they're saying that they're 2 separate movies. There's Infinity War, and then there's Avengers 5, which is like, it's not part 2 of Infinity Wars, but it's still going to be like marking the end of what they have been setting up since Iron Man 1. And so basically what they're saying is that there's going to be major changes. What's also happening off screen is that there are going to be like contracts that are getting ready to expire, major contracts. Like, I think they said after that, we're just going to say Infinity War Part 2 because they don't have a title for it yet. So that's what I'm just going to refer to it as. After Infinity War Part 2, Feige or Feig had said that the Marvel movies would start being more intimate again. Like they would start focusing more on the character instead of just like setting up this whole grandiose plot like they did with the first 3 phases. He said that the movies were going to be more intimate. So I'm hoping, my hope is that he's talking about just focusing on an actual character instead of the big overall picture like they're doing right now. Because I've said it numerous times, I'm getting tired of that. So he said that. What else did he say? The other thing that's happening after Infinity War Part 2 is that, like I said, contracts are expiring. 3 big contracts that I've read is that Robert Downey Jr.'s is going to expire because his contract pretty much signed him up, or like it got extended from I'm trying to remember how it went. It's been so long since I read it. But like I think he renewed his contract when he did Iron Man 3. And basically his new contract was he was going to do Iron Man 3, he was going to do Avengers Infinity War Part 1, and he was going to do Avengers Infinity War Part 2, and everything after that, like, he wasn't in the books for. all the movies he's been showing up in. So Marvel Civil War, when he showed up in that was like a independent contract. That's like a journeyman contract. So like he signed up just for, they paid him just to do that movie. They paid him like a flat fee. And then the same thing happened with Spider-Man Homecoming, where like they paid him a flat fee to show up in those movies. But his contract, from what I remember, ends after Infinity War Part 2. So his contract is getting ready to end after Infinity War Part 2, which is still a ways away, so everybody just chill out. Chris Evans' contract ends after Infinity War Part 2, and Chris Hemsworth's contract ends after Infinity War Part 2. So those are like 3 major Avengers characters that may not show up after Infinity War Part 2. Now, the question is, do they die? Or do they get recast? Do they change the character? Those are my questions, because I didn't read the Infinity War comic, but I've heard through the grapevine, and I'll just go ahead and give it a shout out too, because this is thanks to my comic book connoisseur, Mr. Steve Simon of the Unlucky Dreamer podcast. He was saying that in the Infinity War comic arc, there's lots of major characters that die. Okay, and I don't want to say who, but maybe I will say who, because it's still going to get spoiled no matter what. But anyway, in the comic, there's major characters that die. And those characters may or may not be Captain America and Thor. I don't know. But just the fact that they're doing the Infinity War movie, contracts are getting ready to expire. You know, Iron Man, Cap, and Thor are in the roster of people that may not show up after that. It brings the question of, what are they going to do? Are they going to extend contracts, or are they going to like do an actor swap? Which, it's going to be hard to do an actor swap, but it can be done. We've seen it done numerous times, you know, like James Bond has been played by 4 or 5 different actors, you know, and I'm pretty sure back in the day when Connery was doing Bond and he finally like put the martini down for good, I'm pretty sure people were freaking out, be like, oh my god, there'll never be anyone better than Connery. And then, you know, you got like Roger Moore and the fuck is that other guy's name? God damn, I can't ever remember that dude's name. But anyway, there was Roger Moore, there was Timothy Dalton, there was Pierce Brosnan, now we got Daniel Craig, and now there's this whole debate of like, who's the best Bond? You got people still saying Connery, you got people saying Daniel Craig, you got me saying Pierce Brosnan and shit like that. So it's like, it's George Crosby. Was that his name? Michael Crosby? I can't remember. Oh no, George Lazenby. There we go. Woo! Man, I would have been kicking myself after that. But yeah, George Lazenby. So like, now you got this debate on who's the best Bond, right? So I'm pretty sure we could get to a point where, you know, down the line, somebody else could be playing Iron Man, and people could like be doing this whole juggling act of like, well, who was the best Iron Man? I still think it was Robert Downey Jr. Which, that's what I think. I don't think you're going to get better than Robert Downey, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see, right? But anyway, they could recast him. They could change the characters, because what's going on in the comics right now, the last time I checked, is that there are like major character swaps going on in the comics, to where Iron Man is a little girl flying around in armor being Iron Man. I think they call her Iron Heart, but the comic is still titled Iron Man. So they got her doing that. Last time I checked, Captain America was played by Falcon. So I don't know if that's still a thing or not. I know that Captain America's Hydra, but like Steve Rogers is Hydra, but I think like Falcon is still Captain America. I don't know, but Captain America ain't Captain America last time I checked in the comics. And then Thor is now a girl in the comics. So are they going to go that route in the MCU going forward? Like, are they going to just like switch the characters out and be like, okay, like now Iron Man's a girl, now Thor's a girl, now Cap is a black dude? Like, are they going to do something like that? If they do that, that would be cool. That would definitely go along with their whole notion of like death is permanent, because they've gone and said that even though the Marvel movies, the MCU movies do kind of like follow the comics to a certain extent, the one thing that they want to keep like intact is that when someone dies, they die. So I don't really know if Marvel Studios has the balls to kill off Iron Man and say that Tony Stark is now dead and risk the point of never using Robert Downey Jr. again. I don't know if they have the balls to do that. So I think like what they would end up doing is that they would get someone to take his place, and then they would like just pay Robert Downey Jr. to come back every now and then and just kind of like make a cameo appearance or something like that, and just have that character continue with or have the persona of Iron Man continue with a different character that is not Tony Stark. So maybe they could get a Riri Williams to come in and play Iron Man, or maybe they could just have Rhodey be Iron Man. You know, he could put down the War Machine mantle and just put on the armor and become Iron Man. But I don't know what Don Cheadle's contract looks like, but I don't know. These are the questions that I have of what's going on. The sad part is that, like I said earlier, Infinity War Part 2 is so far away that God only knows what they're going to do. Like, you don't know if contracts are going to extend or not. Chris Evans seems to be doing good. I mean, he was doing good before he joined the MCU, but he's doing even better now that he's been in the MCU. So, like, he really doesn't have any incentive to extend his contract if he doesn't want to. Robert Downey Jr. is well off. He was well off back when they did fucking Avengers 1, you know what I mean? So, and he's talking about how he's pretty much ready to retire, or he's not ready to retire, but he's like, he would like to put down the armor while he's on top. Like, he doesn't want to get to the point where people are saying like, okay, motherfucker, you need to stop. You're old, you look like a skeleton, okay? Like, just stop. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, he doesn't really have any incentive to continue or to extend his contract. And honestly, with all the money that Marvel Studios makes from those movies, I don't think they have enough money to keep paying that motherfucker. Honestly, like, dude, he makes crazy ass money playing Tony Stark. I mean, that's hard to walk away from. You know, like, if I were in his shoes, that would be hard to walk away from. But then at the same time, you got to realize your limits and be like, okay. And then I feel like Robert Downey Jr. is the kind of actor where he's more into the craft of the whole situation. So that does kind of fit in with him being like, I want to hang this up before it's too late, you know, before it starts getting embarrassing and shit like that. So more power to him. Chris Hemsworth, on the other hand, I feel is more inclined to extend his contract just because he hasn't been doing that great outside of the MCU. I think like most of the movies that he's been in, I don't think they've necessarily bombed, but they haven't been received as well as the studio would like them to be received. So the only thing that continues to garner a lot of success for him is the MCU movies. Now, I mean, like I said, it's hard being an actor, you know, and all that. You know, you gotta pay your bills and shit. You gotta live up to all those expenses you accumulate. So I feel like out of those three, he's probably the one to extend his contract further so he can keep that cash flow coming in. But then at the same time, he may want to prove himself. Maybe he's tired of putting on that armor and carrying around that hammer, and he's like, it's time for me to move on. Like, I'm gonna like try my hand at some other shit. Peace out. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I feel like the same way I feel with Robert Downey Jr. playing the character of Tony Stark, I feel can extend to Chris Evans as Steve Rogers and Chris Hemsworth as Thor. What is his real name? Is it like Blake something? It's something Blake. It's not Donald Blake. It's something Blake. Anyway, I feel like Marvel doesn't have the balls to completely kill off those characters. I feel like they would probably find some way to just have them pass on the mantle and give it to a different character to continue the persona of Captain America and all them. So that is my 2 cents on what's going on with the whole MCU thing. But all I know is that they need to get their shit straight with Sony on what's going on, because that whole thing is crazy how they just keep going back and forth. It's just embarrassing to where you got one person's be like, oh yeah, they're all in the same family. And then you got another person coming and be like, no, they're not. They're not in the same family. Stop saying that. You know, it's kind of crazy. So that shit needs to get put on lock ASAP. Anyway, that whole big news article is courtesy of Screen Rant, comicbook.com, and IGN. One of the reasons why it took me so long to put all this shit together was that was a big story to get through, big story for me to interpret and stuff like that. You know, we're losing actors and all that. So, yeah. So, my apologies. Once again, thank you for your patience. Now let's move on to the next news article because there's still lots of news left. So, looking at this. Okay. Michelle Rodriguez is threatening to leave the Fast and Furious franchise, courtesy of IGN. She recently came out and was saying that she loves the franchise. She loves the Fast and Furious franchise, you know, loves the cast, loves the crew and all that, loves the checks that she's getting in the mail, all that shit. It's great. She loves it. But at the same time, she's been noticing there's not a lot of love being shown to the female characters in this franchise, you know? So she's like, I may just have to step away again if they don't start showing love to these female characters. Now, the again part is me adding that because she kind of did step away when you think back to how she was dead in, what was it, Fast and Furious? Yeah, remember when she was dead, you know what I mean? And then she was gone all through 5, and she didn't come back until 6. You remember that shit? I remember it. So, that's why I said again. Sorry for yelling in your ears. But, yeah, so she's talking about walking away from the franchise, possibly walking away from the franchise. They don't start showing love to these female characters. So, a lot of people were thinking that she was directing that towards Vin Diesel because Vin Diesel is one of the creative forces behind the Fast and the Furious franchise. I don't know like exactly when he started producing the movies, but he is one of the producers on the movies and has been that way, I want to say, since like maybe 4? I can't remember. But anyway, he's a producer. He's one of the main guys on the production team, right? So a lot of people thought that she was directing that towards him. And he ended up coming out with an Instagram video or some kind of post on Twitter or whatever, just talking about how like, yeah, man, like we're gonna try and work on that, but just so everybody knows, she wasn't directing that towards me. She was directing that towards like someone else on the creative team. Like everything's cool with me and her, blah, 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 blah. And she was in the video with them and they were all embracing each other and shit like that. So like, that's cool and all. Now let's get to the real shit, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if she was talking about Vin Diesel, because if you're talking about the production team, you gotta be talking about all the production team, okay? I don't know how much power Vin Diesel has, you know, with the whole franchise and all that shit, but I feel like he's gotta have a pretty good chunk of power to make some shit happen. So, here's the thing. I feel like she might be just talking about herself as far as female characters go, because when I think about it, when I'm looking back on a lot of the movies, recently they have been showing some love to the female characters, but the only problem is that they are still like reduced as side characters, you know, like they have their moments to shine, but as far as like story wise, they don't really have a lot to do with the story. They're usually just like a side piece. They're usually damsels in distress, you know, or they have like their little moment to kick some ass and shred some tires, but at the end of the day, it's more about the dudes. It is, like she said, a fucking sausage fest in those movies. So I do agree with her that there needs to be a little bit more love shown with the female characters, but I feel like there needs to be more love shown with her character, and I need to be careful with this because I don't want to like spoil things for the latest movie that just came out, because we'll do that at the end of the year. But with her being an OG character in that franchise, I feel like they do need to show her a little bit more love, because she did start out as like this really strong character, and she's had her moments from time to time, but for the most part, she's mainly just been like on Dom's arm, just like traveling the world with him and not really doing much else. You know what I mean? She's more like Dom's muscle, you know, but Dom doesn't need any muscle because he's got super strength and he can beat anybody, whether it's racing cars or fighting people or shooting them in the face. Like, you know, so she's kind of like useless next to him. There is room to like do something with her to kind of like have the story focus more on her in the next couple movies, because I think the last time I checked, they said that they were going to stop at 10. So they got 2 more movies to go. So there is enough room and enough time for them to have a movie or 2 focus on her. So you got Braga, who's in jail right now. He's got history with her. They got history with each other. So like he's in jail. She's got history with Owen Shaw. And then there's some other stuff that happens in the latest movie that she is like directly tied to. So there is enough like room there. There's enough elements for them to pull together to get a story going that focuses on Letty and not necessarily focus on Dom again, you know, because the movies have been focusing on Dom a lot. I think ever since like Paul Walker kind of passed away, like they've been like bringing the attention over to Vin Diesel's character, Dominic Toretto. But I think even before Paul Walker passed away, they were kind of like working more in Toretto's direction than they were in Brian's. So anyway, like I said, with her being an OG, with her being there on the first Fast and Furious movie, I feel like she is overdue to get a little bit more screen time and a little more story attention to her character. They especially need to do that before they close out the series, because like I said, I feel like they have been showing the female characters some love, just not a whole lot of love. Like Gal Gadot's character, I can't remember what her name was. I think it was Giselle. She was a strong character. You know, she knew how to take care of herself, but she was also like with Han and shit. So they kind of like watched each other's back. So it was like one minute she'd be saving his life, and then the next minute he'd be saving her life. So they kind of like go back and forth. But now she's dead. So, I mean, you can't really do much with that. Wait, my bad. She's dead. You know, because I feel like they could bring her back if they wanted to. Gina Carano's character from Fast and Furious 6 was a strong character, you know, but she's also dead. The closest they got to, like, really putting the light on a strong female character was Charlize Theron's character, Cypher, in the latest Fate and Furious movie. But, I mean, there were some mistakes going on with that, too. Without really doing any spoilers, I'll just say that she didn't really do much in that movie. I mean, she did some stuff, but not a lot. She was very sinister in that movie, which I liked. But there was a lot of times where she really just wasn't doing a whole lot. And we're going to get into that a little later in the movie section with her, because that movie ain't the only time where she didn't really do that much, but still did a lot of shit, you know. But it's hard to explain without giving you any spoilers or anything like that. But they are trying with the female characters in the Fast and Furious series. But I do understand what Michelle Rodriguez is saying when she says like the female characters need to be shown a little bit more love, because they have been relegated to just damsels in distress for the most part, more than they've been relegated to badassery that they want. So kudos to her for striking while the iron's hot, because everybody's fucking dicks and beans are wet from the whole Wonder Woman thing going on right now. So I guess like all the women are trying to stand up and are trying to get more like involved in these fucking movies. They're trying to get the cameras on them more without their tits flashing all everywhere. And I don't have any problem with that. So Vin Diesel and the rest of the creative team on Fast and Furious franchise, y'all need to get y'all shit together. Maybe you can call me up and I'll consult for you. I'm very cheap, but I'm not fucking expensive either. But I'm right in there in between. But I'll help y'all out. I've seen all the movies. I own all the movies except for Fate of Furious, because it's out digitally right now, and I want my shit physical. So if you need some help, you holler at your boy. I'll come up with some shit for you. But that's a little freebie out right now. You got Braga, you got Shaw, and you got some other shit that I can't talk about. So why don't you get on it? Moving on to the last bit of news. Nina Skye used to be a preschool teacher. For those who don't know, Nina Skye is a porn star, a porn actress, whatever you want to call them. This was courtesy of FoxNews.com. She was doing some kind of interview where I guess she was talking about how, I didn't see the interview, I didn't read the interview, but she was basically just talking about how she used to be a teacher at a Christian preschool, and she ended up getting fired when they found out about her extracurricular activities as a porn star on the side. So she was saying that the reasoning behind her firing was that she was pretty much in breach of contract. With it being a Christian school, I'm guessing that there must have been something in the contract she was saying that was about like fornication and not having sex before marriage and shit like that, right? So they were saying that she was basically in breach of contract, so they ended up firing her for that. They were even saying like so basically what was going on was here's the thing. Sorry. I'm getting all like jumbled up here. They fired her because she was in breach of contract with the whole like sex before marriage and shit like that, right? So here's my thing. I completely understand breach of contract, okay? But when you think about it, she was doing a job, you know. Whether you want to believe it or not, porn is a job, okay? It's acting. It's all fantasy, right? Yes, she's having sex with other people that she's not married to, but it's part of her job, you know? Like she's, you know, that's what she's paid to do. I feel like that is the loophole with the whole sex before marriage thing, is that even though she is having sex with somebody that she's not married to, it's like that is her job, is what she's supposed to do. So if you look at it in the sense of, you know, for anybody rolling their eyes at me right now, you need to look at it from the angle of Daniel Craig, right? So Daniel Craig, aka James Bond, Daniel Craig is married to Rachel Weisz. So if he's shooting a James Bond movie and in the scene he's got to make out with Monica Bellucci and rub all over her and shit like that, he's making out with her and everything and caressing her and all this other shit, right? And then they like go off a scene and it's insinuated that they have sex. Just the act of him making out with Monica Bellucci, that's not cheating. Okay, because you would like label that under, oh, like he's acting, he's playing a character, like that's what, you know, that's his job. He's not cheating on his wife. He's just acting out the scene for this movie. That's the same thing that goes with a porn star, where it's like she's having sex with this person, whether it's a dude or a girl, and they're not married, but they are acting. They are pretending to be that into each other. It is, you know, it's fake. Okay, yes, they're really having sex, but them actually like having sex emotionally is fake. All right, so yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at here. So you can't look at it from the perspective of a movie like James Bond, where, you know, Daniel Craig is making out with all these chicks. You know, Rachel Weisz ain't sitting at home being like, oh, he's cheating on me. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta look at it the same way with porn stars, where it's like if Nina Skye is fucking Lexington Steele. I don't know my porn stars recently, you know, but like let's say she's fucking Lexington Steele. If Nina Skye has a boyfriend at home, her boyfriend doesn't look and be like, oh, she's cheating on me with Lexington Steele. It's like, no, she's at work and she's doing her job. So fuck off with all that shit. So I believe that the Christian preschool is in the wrong for firing her, you know. And she was saying how they tried to like get her to quit her job in porn, where they were trying to like pay for her housing. They offered to give her a raise and stuff, but she just had to quit her side job, right? But she didn't want to do that. She was basically just saying that was her dream job. You know, her dream job was to always have sex and get paid for it, I guess, without being a prostitute. So, you know, props to her for following her dreams. You know what I mean? But like I said, we gotta keep in mind that this is a job. She's acting. You know, don't take it so seriously. All right. I'm sure a lot of those girls in porn do not want a dick up their ass. You know, I've heard that it hurts. You know, not from personal experience. I'm talking about from interviews that I've read and from people that I talked to. But at the end of the day, they're like, this is my job. It's what I got to do. It's what it calls for sometimes. So, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know? So, yeah. That's why, like, there's this whole thing going around right now. There was this other article I read where they were talking about how the percentage of men and women reaching climaxes in porn is low as well. That's completely understandable because when you think about it, you got two people or more in a room having sex that are surrounded by a whole crew of people. Like, there's a guy on the camera, there's a guy holding the boom mic, there's another guy holding lights, there's a person setting up the craft table for when they need to take a break. You know, there's the fluffer who's gotta like keep people hard and keep them wet in between scenes and shit like that. Okay, it's a fucking job. All right, so I understand that it would be hard for somebody to reach climax when you got all that shit going on around you. You know, there's also the factor of there's different smells that go on porn sets. You know, it's like you got people with BO, you got people who fucking fart accidentally or some shit. You know, there's a lot of things that factor into it. So, and then you gotta understand too is that a lot of those people have been doing porn for so many years that they can't get off the same way that they used to. You know, so I mean, I completely understand if people are having a hard time reaching climax, whether you're a boy or a girl. You know, and they were saying how that leaks into real life where the viewers of porn are, you know, their ejaculation or climax rating is down as well in a percentage. And it's like, that too is understandable because then we got a situation where porn is so accessible that people just constantly watch it. They're like binging on porn now. It's not like back in the day when it was hard to like get that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's not like back in the day we had to spend like $60 on a movie and you had to like just take that for what it was and then you had to like wait till the next time you went to the porn store to go get a new movie. Now it's like you can go from one scene to the next scene to the next scene to the next scene in a matter of minutes. Okay? And if you're like working yourself or flicking your bean or whatever like that constantly, like, yeah, it's going to be harder and harder to reach climax because you're so like desensitized to everything that it makes sense to why the ratings are low. Okay? You know what I'm saying? So basically what I'm trying to say is that porn is a job. The Christian preschool was in the wrong for firing her for breach of contract because I don't believe it was a breach of contract. And can you blame her for doing porn on the side? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's well known by now that teachers don't make shit. Unless, of course, they work at a university. Because I've heard from numerous people that work in universities, like professors and shit like that, make bank. Okay? But we're talking about a Christian preschool here. And this girl has to deal with all kind of kids and shit. You know, throwing things at her head or just being little assholes or whatever kids do nowadays in preschool. Like, she's got to put up with a lot of that. And they don't get paid that much. And porn, they do get, I mean, porn stars don't make as much as they used to now, but it's still easy money compared to working at a preschool, I feel like. She was talking about, she being Nina Skye, was talking about how she made like $2,500 for her very first scene in porn. That's a lot of money. Like, before like factoring in taxes and living expenses and shit like that. That's a lot of money to get up front for doing one scene. You know what I mean? Way more than what a preschool teacher would make on her first day on the job. So that's all I'm trying to say. But yeah. But anyway, it's a job. Christian school's in the wrong. Of course, climax ratings are at an all-time low or just low in general. You know, pace yourself, people, okay? Do some shit in between watching all the porn. Take a break, you know? Don't forget to actually have sex yourself so you can realize that what you're seeing on the internet isn't how people actually have sex on a daily basis, okay? No one's sitting at home fucking getting at somebody all like this and shit, okay? You know why they're doing that? Because they have to get the shot. Okay, but that's a very uncomfortable position to do, like at an angle and shit like that. You want to be right up on somebody, you know what I'm saying? So just take that into effect, okay? It's not as easy as it looks. It's not as glamorous as it looks as well. So anyway, let's that ends the news section. Went on a little rant there. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about the whole porn world if you haven't noticed. So, but anyway, moving on to the next section. But before that, let us get into the next clue, shall we?
I suppose we have a conversation where you enlighten me. How many of you are out there? Enlighten me. Where are the rest of your compadres? Enlighten me. What I don't get is why you people are so hostile. I've been good to you. I built you a town. Why are we fighting?
Now, who's ready to get into some trailers? First up, American Assassin, starring Dylan O'Brien and Michael Keaton. General synopsis of this movie, judging from the trailer, is that some dude is involved in like a terrorist act where his wife or girlfriend ends up dying, and he kind of goes on a rampage hunting down terrorists to stop them. I don't know if he's trying to avenge his wife or if he's just trying to make sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else, but he's doing that. And eventually he runs into Sanaa Lathan and Michael Keaton, and they are both like running some kind of special terrorist hunting unit where they're just like, hey, instead of doing this, or instead of doing all this shit by yourself, you need to come with this unit and we will point you into the right direction. You get to work with a team, get to be more efficient, you get to be on the books but not really on the books and bullshit like that. So anyway, it's about him and his team. Or it's mainly just about Dylan O'Brien's character and Michael Keaton working together to stop terrorists. But then there's all this shit going on where it's like emotions are driving people, and you don't want emotions to be like driving or inspiring to you for you to do shit and blah blah blah. And it's old school meets new school and all this other shit. So that's what we're most likely going to be getting into with the movie. Even though there is a huge red flag in the trailer, two huge red flags. The one we already know, which is they pretty much lay out the entire fucking movie for you. So like, I'm kind of scared that I'm gonna go in there and there's not really gonna be anything new that they didn't show me in the trailer story wise. But the other red flag is they showed a lot of action scenes. There's a lot of Dylan O'Brien just fucking Krav Maga people and shooting them all over and everything like that. And, you know, Michael Keaton gets his share in as well. So it judging off of the trailers, it looks like it's going to be real action heavy. But recently, that has caused me to be a little concerned for those type of movies where I'm going to go in expecting like this big action fest like John Wick. And I'm going to come out being like, that went a lot slower than I thought. You know, and we'll get into that later in the movie section, but that's what it looks like this movie's doing right now as far as trailers go. But I still want to see it because I like to watch Michael Keaton act. I think he's superb when it comes to acting, and it'll be cool to see him like get in the mix a little bit with the action and stuff like that. It's good to get his, you know, body stretched out, you know, get his bones loose and, you know, Krav Maga some people, flip them around, shove knives down their throats. So that'd be cool. Dylan O'Brien is good as well. I've only seen him in one other movie, and that was the Maze Runner movies. And I was actually impressed with his physicality in those movies. So I'm hoping to see that in this movie, American Assassin. There's also the chance that the movie, regardless of them showing so much of the plot in the trailers, might still end up being good. They might still end up telling an intriguing story. We'll have to wait and see. But there's enough of the carrot in front of my face for me to go and see it when it comes out September 15th. So, yeah. Brings us to the next trailer that I watched. And this was courtesy of my other friend, Eric Enriquez, from who is also from the Unlucky Dreamer podcast. So another shout out for them. Kudos. But you know, so I recently hung out with this man, and he was like, you know what you need to talk about on that Movie Chewsday podcast? And I was like, what? He's like, you need to talk about The Foreigner. And I was like, what the fuck is The Foreigner?
and he was like, man, this movie with Jackie Chan, and he's like a fucking bad guy, and he's going after like Pierce Brosnan and shit, and he's running around blowing people up and yada yada yada. And I was like, you, my friend, had me at Jackie Chan. So yeah, the movie's called The Foreigner, and it kind of has a similar plot to American Assassin, where Jackie Chan's character is also on the one-man rampage to get revenge for his daughter that was caught in the middle of a terrorist act, to where she ended up getting blown up on just a regular day, you know, and she got blown up right in front of Jackie Chan's character, I'm guessing, and he goes on a rampage trying to figure out who is responsible. And Jackie Chan's character just happens to be a former bomb maker. So I'm guessing he's going to be using his deductive skills to like piece the bomb together and be like, oh, it came from this. I need to go talk to these people. And he ends up in front of Pierce Brosnan's character's doorstep. And he's like, yo, I put the fucking clues together. And this is who the terrorists are probably, or this is who the terrorists probably are, who fucking bombed my daughter. So I want you to tell me who they are and point me in their direction, and I'll take care of the rest. And Pierce Brosnan is like, nah, man, I can't do that, dude. It's like, you know, we're not in that type of business, you know, I can't do that. So I guess the movie is just about Jackie Chan, kind of like, I guess he's on the manhunt, trying to find a terrorist responsible, but then he's also fucking with Pierce Brosnan's character at the same time, so he can give up the information to make his hunt a lot more easier, and Pierce Brosnan won't give it up. And the reason why he's going after Pierce Brosnan is apparently because he also has ties to either the terrorist unit that killed Jackie Chan's daughter, or he like has some sort of information or whatever like that. But anyway, this trailer kind of has the same problem as the American Assassin trailer, where they're kind of like laying out too much of the plot for you, to where I don't know if there's going to be a lot more or a lot of surprises left when I actually see the movie. But the fact that I don't know what's up with Pierce Brosnan's character gets me intrigued enough to where, you know, hopefully the revelation in the movie is like a type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I look forward to that. I'm going to go see it regardless, because I got to support my boy Jackie Chan, and having Pierce Brosnan in there is an added bonus. And I feel like, because this movie shows some action scenes as well, shows Jackie Chan doing this whole kung fu thing, which is great. But I feel like this movie has a better chance of being at a little bit more of a steady pace than I think American Assassin will be, where it's like, with Chan's character trying to unravel the mystery of the death of his daughter, and the audience trying to figure out what's up with Pierce Brosnan's character, mixed in with the action that Jackie Chan is going to deliver in the movie. I feel like there's going to be a nice balance of action and thrillers and mysteries going on to keep you moving along in the movie enough to where I should be able to enjoy it. So I look forward to that movie coming out October 13th. So there you go. And let me just offer one more thanks to my boy Eric for putting me onto that trailer, because God only knows if I ever would have seen that going to the theaters, you know, because apparently the theaters just love showing the same fucking trailers over and over again. But then again, Transformers 5 is out, Spider-Man's getting ready to come out this week, so now they gotta refill the whole trailer roster, which will hopefully expand the trailer section in the movie Chewsday. But one can only hope. So, anywho, American Assassin, The Foreigner, let's all get together and go check it out, and we'll meet back here when the time is right and discuss it. Now, we get into the movie section, spoiler free, and the key word is movies. I noticed that I've been doing a lot of like solo movie reviews lately, but not for episode 30, baby. We're doing it big, episode 30. Believe me on that. You know what I'm saying? So, first up, Atomic Blonde. So, I scored some advance tickets to go check out Atomic Blonde this past week, right?
There was a contest that was posted on IGN. Like they had, I don't even really know if you can consider it a contest. Like it was pretty much just a post that was on there on IGN saying that, you know, get tickets to see Atomic Blonde early. So naturally I checked it out because, you know, I've been talking about getting advance tickets for movies for a minute now. So I didn't want to like pass this chance up. So clicked on the article. And it was talking about, you know, how they were going to do advanced screenings, and they had a list of the cities that the screenings were going to be in. And luckily, one of the screenings was in Phoenix, Arizona. So naturally, I jumped on that. I just had to like fill out a little form real quick, and they ended up sending me the tickets right away. Told me when it was going to start. They were like, it's a first come, first served basis. So like, get there as early as you can to get a good spot in line so you can get a seat in the theater. So I jumped on that. Now, if memory serves me correct, this is probably the first advanced screening I've ever been to in all my years of going to the movies. And I can proudly say that it was a very enlightening experience. I mean, there was a lot of people there, but it wasn't that many. The people in the theater were, for the most part, very respectable. There's a little chit chat here and there, but not enough to where it would like fucking make my ears burn and cause me to go into a fucking rage. But for the most part, like everybody was respectable, everybody was quiet, everyone enjoyed the movie. The other thing I like too is that the theater had at least 2 or 3 security guards in it at all times, which was amazing. And I'm guessing that they were in there to ensure that nobody was recording the movie, because that was one of the stipulations, was that you couldn't bring a recording device into the movie, even though the majority of people in that theater had cell phones, you know what I mean, because everybody's got a cell phone nowadays. But for the most part, they were there to just make sure that no one was recording the movie and trying to give it out illegally. But they were there the whole time, and that was great. There were times where I kind of felt sorry for them, because there was one dude who was kind of like walking back and forth, just scoping out everything. But there was one guy who was just like posted up against the wall with his head just cocked over to the movie screen, just watching the movie the whole time. Every now and then he'd like kind of like scan the movie theater, but then go back to the screen. But he was like posted on the wall the entire time. And I was like, damn, dude, that's got to be a shitty ass job to have to stand there the entire time. So to the security services at AMC, I salute you. Now, before we get into the whole review of the thing, let me start out by doing some thank yous really quick. First, I want to thank IGN for posting up the article to give me a chance to get advanced screening tickets for Atomic Blonde. I would like to thank Universal for setting up an advanced screening for Atomic Blonde and actually having it in Arizona for me to go look at it. I would also like to thank, what was that place called? There was some kind of like marketing firm there that like kind of hosted the whole thing, kind of like orchestrated that whole situation. I got it written down. Finger Paint Marketing. Thank you guys for orchestrating that whole thing and probably playing a part in getting the screening in Arizona. And last but not least, I would like to thank AMC Theaters for having the screening at their theaters. So now that that's out the way, I've got all my thank yous. You know, let's get right down to the nitty gritty. So I did all my thank yous, for the tickets and all that. Having a chance to do all that, it was great. Had a good experience in the theater. But if you guys honestly think that giving me some free movie tickets is going to influence any kind of judgments or critiques that I have for your movie that has not released yet, you got another thing coming. But don't worry, I'll keep it respectable. All right, like I always do. I like to treat all my movies with respect, even if they're pieces of shit. Now, I'm not saying that Atomic Blonde was a piece of shit. I'm just saying that we have another candidate for a movie that doesn't live up to the trailer that's shown to sell the movie to the viewer.
So if you look at the trailer, and I've talked about the trailer before in a previous movie Chewsday, and I was pretty much just like, you look at the trailer and it looks like John Wick, but instead of a guy, it's a girl running around kicking people's asses. But it does look more of it looks like it'll have more hand-to-hand combat than it will gunplay, and that was true for the most part. That was one of the things that the movie lived up to. But going off of like John Wick kind of starts out a little slow, like building up everything, but once it gets going and it keeps going. And even when Keanu Reeves is not running around shooting people in the face, there's still a compelling story to keep you invested until you get to the next shot of him, or the next scene of him shooting up a whole room full of people. That is not really the case with Atomic Blonde. It's like there is action scenes in the movie, and sadly a lot of the scenes in the movie are the scenes that they've shown pretty much fully in the trailer, but those scenes are spread out far and wide. And that, like, from the beginning of the movie to about like the middle, it's like a very, like, the fight scenes are kind of spread out. It's not until the very end where things like start picking up, and it is like a constant roller coaster that the trailers make it out to be, but it takes a little bit of a trip to get there. Now, you remember what I said with American Assassin, right? Where I was saying like the trailer looks action packed and it looks like that's what the movie's going to be about, but when you actually go see it, it might be a whole bunch of like talking and story building and building up the characters and all that stuff. I was saying that because that's what I went through with Atomic Blonde. Now, the thing is that just because the action is spread out is not what makes the movie, or is not what keeps the movie from being like superb. It's the fact that all the in-between stuff in between the action, like all the like story plot, like trying to evolve the story of the movie, is not that interesting. So like basically the general synopsis of the movie is that Charlize Theron's character is like an MI6 agent, and she's been given a mission to go to Berlin and investigate an agent that was killed in action. So she's got to go there and figure out how he died, who killed him, what did they kill him for, you know, what did he have that was like so important, or what did he do that was so important, and shit like that. And I won't go into any more as to not really ruin the story, but that's pretty much the gist of it, is just her in Berlin leading this investigation, trying to figure out what's going on in the spy world. And usually when you have movies that deal with like spies and shit, you get into the whole concept of, you know, the double agent, the triple agent, the quadruple agent, the double crossing, you know, who's your friend, who's your enemy, who's this other fucking agency that's sending agents over to investigate and shit like that. It just, the movie just gets jumbled up in all this stuff, and I think it just does a very poor job of explaining exactly what's going on. It's set up in a very noir style, you know what I mean? But when Charlize Theron is kind of like running her investigation, like when she's not kicking ass and shooting faces in the scene, there's a lot of her just kind of like walking around in really nice outfits and looking all mean and smoking cigarettes. Whenever there's like times where she shows any type of emotion, it's like, it's kind of hard to tell what she's showing emotion over, like what her emotions are directed towards. It's kind of hard to find her motivations as well as a character, because she'll be like stuck on one thing, on one situation, but then she handles the next situation completely different, like this other situation didn't happen, if that explains anything. But it's just like, for them to actually like kind of build up that story of what's going on, I just really didn't find it that interesting the way it was carried out. James McAvoy is also in the movie, but he's not in the movie as much as I thought he would be, which is understandable because the movie is called Atomic Blonde, not Atomic whatever colored hair James McAvoy's hair is, you know what I mean? But I still just feel like they could have traded a little bit of what his character was doing compared to what Charlize Theron's character was doing, because basically she gets sent to Berlin, but James McAvoy's character is like stationed in Berlin, so she's got to work with him to figure out the whole mystery of what happened to the agent that was killed in action and shit. So you gotta do that, but they don't really like go that deep into what James McAvoy is doing or what the motivations are for his character for the most part. There's a lot of things that are left up to interpretation and stuff like that, and sometimes it's really just hard to read what's going on with Theron's character, what's going on with his character, and what's going on with all the other characters in the movie. You know, I just feel like the whole jumping around from the different characters just gets kind of lost in the shuffle. And there's a lot of times where, you know, they're so wrapped up in like all these names that get thrown around in the movie. Like there's people's real names, there's people's code names, there's pseudonyms, there's, you know, monikers and all this other shit. Like everything just gets thrown around, and there's times when you're just watching the movie and you're just kind of like sitting there like, what the fuck is happening right now? I'm seriously confused right now. And I was not the only one who was confused in that theater, because I asked some people when I was like, did you know what was going on with this? Did you know what this was all about? And they were just like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Eventually, everything comes to a head in the movie, obviously, where they finally start explaining what the fuck was happening throughout the whole thing. And it's kind of one of those revelations where it's just like, you guys could have told that story a little bit better than what you did. And there's still a couple plot holes going on that I still have not been able to wrap my head around. You know what I mean? So there's that kind of stuff. But that's pretty much my gripe with the movie, is just that all the story building in between of the action that's spread out so far is that it wasn't as compelling as I would have liked it to be. So that was like my main gripe with the movie. Everything else I enjoyed. I thought the action was fantastic. I mean, I remember, like I said earlier, I felt like the movie overall from the trailers looks like John Wick, but it looks like it's going to be more focused on hand-to-hand combat, like, you know, with all the like situational combat and shit where you're slapping people with brooms in a room and everything like that. All of that was good. It was well choreographed, nice camera work. I mean, the camera's moving, like, is moving all over the place at times, but it's not to the point where you can't really see what's happening. The fight choreography was nice and visceral. Props to the makeup team for how they were just bloodying up people, because I really am liking the direction that a lot of these action movies are starting to get into, where like when people get into fights, it's not like just a cut lip that they have or like a little gash on top of their head with like blood kind of running down the side of their face. It's like people got black eyes, they got broken noses, they got bones popping out of their arms and shit. And that's the shit that I want to see more. And they didn't skimp on Charlize Theron's character either. Like, her character takes a beating as well. I want to see more of that shit, okay? If you're going to be having people in these hand-to-hand fights and having bookshelves fall on top of their heads and shit, I want to see some bruises. I want to see some cuts, okay? This ain't the 90s anymore where Schwarzenegger and Stallone are jumping out of buildings and crashing through plate glass windows, and the only thing they got is little cuts on their faces and shit. I want some black eyes, damn it. I'm talking about what Daredevil did with the Punisher, where he's walking around looking like a fucking raccoon after getting his ass beat. You know what I'm saying? I want to see more of that stuff, and I'm glad that this movie lived up to that type of action. So, really good. The music. I also like the soundtrack of the movie. Now, I don't really know my music genres that much, but I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark and say that it was 80s music, because there was a lot of neon lighting in that movie, and I feel like the 80s music kind of really went along with the overall cinematography that the movie had, which was also great. I really liked that cold, dreary look that the movie had. I mean, with her being in Berlin and stuff, like, you really did kind of feel a little cold in what they were going through in that movie, and the way they did the neon lighting did kind of give it that warm kind of tone to it, that really stylistic look that I liked. So props to the team on all that. The only problem is though with the fighting and the music is that
I feel like that's where most of the attention went to for the movie, is that it went into what songs are you going to pick to play throughout the movie, and how are they going to work in the scenes, and what the fight scenes are going to look like, and how they're going to be carried out. I feel like all the attention was wrapped up into that, and then when it came to actually telling the story or executing the story in a complete whole is where they kind of just dropped the ball, where they kind of just phoned it in a little bit, you know. But so yeah, there's that. Overall, dude, at the end of the day, I thought the movie was okay. I wasn't disappointed too bad when watching it. I was a little disappointed that, like I said, it didn't live up to the trailers that they showed. Like I said, we really got to get out of that phase where everybody's like just ramping up these trailers, and when you go in, it's something like completely different, you know. And even when it's something completely different, it doesn't really live up to what you're trying to sell for the most part. But overall, the movie was okay. Is it worth going to see in theaters? I honestly, dude, I would wait and just wait for it to come on video or cable and watch it there. That's just my personal opinion. But if you do want to go and see it anyway, regardless of what I say, because you want to see a good action movie, I would say to just go into that movie expecting to sit through a lot of setup before you really get to the action scenes. Because like I said, like from beginning to about like the middle of the movie, the action is very spread out. And when there is an action scene, when there is like a fight scene or whatever like that, it's good, but it's really quick. And it'll like it's a lot of like story, big action scene, and then story, big action scene. And it does that until you get to like the end of the movie, where you just get like to the real visceral shit that they were showing in the trailers and all that. So if you go see the movie, keep that in mind. Don't go in thinking it's going to be like John Wick, where as soon as things ramp up, it just stays ramped up and keeps going and going and going. It's like the action does take breaks in between. So just go into the movies with that in your brain, and you should be able to enjoy the movie a lot more than I did. As far as like, I don't know how you guys consume story or not, but you know, I like all my shit to make sense. I like to, like, when you're going to do like a little mystery thriller, I like to have interesting things happen that slowly build up to the revelation of the movie, to where it's like, well, I think this is going to happen. Well, I think this is that, you know. And I just didn't really get that with the movie. It was just one of those things, when it ended, I was just like, that was a long walk to get to what you could have just said from the very beginning, you know. So that's all I got for you. I would say the trailers make the movie look like John Wick. The movie actually ends up being something like, I want to say Jason Bourne, but it's more like that movie The Gunman. If you ever seen that movie, I think Sean Penn was in it, where it's just this plotting story that just kind of like slowly goes through the movie, and in between you get like little action scenes sprinkled through, you know. I would say it's kind of like that. So yeah, man, that's all I got for you. Atomic Blonde is still a little ways away from coming out. I think it comes out July 28th, if memory serves me correct. So yeah. But anywho, on to the next movie. The movie is Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright, written by Edgar Wright, produced by not Edgar Wright. Productions by Nira Park, Eric Fellner, my bad, got horrible handwriting, and Tim Bevan. So, Baby Driver is a getaway movie. And it's like any other getaway movie that you've seen. Or is it? Actually, no, that's a lie. It's not like any getaway movie that you've seen before. Okay? I guarantee it. So, like, the premise is there is this young Will man who is pretty much just living day-to-day life, pulling off jobs in the underworld, trying to survive the next day, all the while longing for one day getting out of that world, getting out of that life, hanging up his underworld keys for good. Okay? And that's the most I'm gonna give to you. And like I just said, this isn't like any getaway movie that you've seen before. And the main reason for that is because of the soundtrack, which is what we're going to talk about first. Soundtrack is hugely important in this movie. This movie lives and dies by the soundtrack, and that's simply because the music of the movie not only enhances what you're seeing like other movies do with their music, the movie is the soundtrack. Okay, it's like a 2-hour long music video almost. So like when you think about like let's see, when you think about that movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, that's a good movie that's got a good soundtrack behind it. Whereas Baby Driver is a good movie, but it's even better with the soundtrack because everything works in tandem. You know, like there's times where there's things happening in the scene that actually goes along with the music. So, for example, if there's a shootout in the streets, it's not people just like spraying and praying, just like all over the place. You know, it's like whatever the beat or the tempo is to the song, like the gunshots actually go with it. And it sounds corny, but it's actually done really, really well. And I got to give props to Edgar Wright for that. And I got to give props to the composer, Stephen Price, for that. Because it was genius the way it was done. I couldn't tell you like who the artists were for the songs that they were playing. You know, I'm not like that great because there's a lot of like old school type of music played at times. But mostly it's like soul music, you know, get you going with it. And then there's a little bit of alternative rock mixed in there as well. That's like, I would say those are the genres that I heard the most during the movie. They like caught my attention, but I couldn't tell you who the artists were. All I can tell you is that the songs were fantastic and it went well with the movie. And I need to get my hands on that soundtrack. I tried to get it in the stores, but they didn't have it for some odd reason. So I might just have to buy it digitally and get it physically later on. But fantastic. What else? I liked the music. What else I liked was I liked the overall story of the movie. It had a nice story to it. It's like the key word to go with this movie to like best describe it is balance. Everything is just like perfectly balanced. There's never too much of one thing, you know. There's not like this big ass grandiose story that goes along with the movie. Even all the characters, like it's simple, dude. It's just a simple crime story about criminals robbing shit and ducking the cops in cars and on foot, you know, and having like mass shootouts and shit like that. Like that's pretty much what the movie is. Like I said, like the story premise is nothing really new, but just the way everything is done in the movie is what makes it so great. You know, like the characters in the movie are intriguing enough to where they even give you like little snippets of their backstory, and it's enough to like fully flesh out that character and make you kind of like connect with them and exude some emotion in what they do in scenes or what happens to them in scenes. So that was like one of the things that I loved about the movie. The action scenes are really good as well. Well directed. Breath of fresh air to always see a car chase movie with like, for the most part, practical car effects going on. You know, none of that Fast and the Furious type bullshit, you know, with all the computers, and I'm sure they use like some hydraulics to get the cars to do some things, but for the most part, like, I'm not gonna say it's like standard stunt work. It is spectacular stunt work that is done, man. There's power slides, there's cars driving in reverse, there's cars crashing, flipping into each other. You know, there's just all kind of little tricks done in the movie, and it's done in spectacular fashion. Well directed, well choreographed. Lots of like hectic and chaotic scenes that go on during all the car chases and shit like that. But it's never hectic enough to where you can't really see what's happening. Like the way the camera work is done, like you can follow the car, you can follow all the things that are happening in the scene, and you can like get the full layout of what's happening, which I really enjoy too, because there's lots of times where you get like a whole bunch of like quick cuts and things in movies where it's really hard to tell what's going on. Like I said, the characters are good. It's like the story has a nice progression to it. There really isn't a lot of dead spots that happen in the movie. You know, it's like as soon as the movie starts, it starts like cranked up to max, and then it comes down a little bit. But when it comes down, the music kind of like helps you move along with the scene, you know, of what's happening. But then the progression of the story is also interesting enough to keep you moving from scene to scene. So even when there isn't a car like soaring through the air or crashing into something, like just people sitting down at a table having a conversation with each other is intriguing enough to pull you through the movie, which is what I like so much. Keep in mind too that, you know, like I said, it's directed by Edgar Wright, you know, written by him and everything. This is one of his dream projects. I guess I listened to an interview that he did once where he was actually talking about how it was like a movie that he had in the making for like damn near a decade. Like he like had this movie in the back of his mind for a long time, and for whatever reason he decided to like actually bring it out of his mind, put it on paper, and put it on the screen, and it is what you see today if you actually go and see the movie. So, and with Edgar Wright being pretty much one of my favorite directors of all time, like I guess you can kind of like take what I say with a grain of salt, you know, because maybe there is a little bias in here, because you know, I really enjoyed the movie. It was fantastic. I loved it so much that I had to see it twice. Okay, I had to trick my poor girlfriend into going to see that movie. You know, I made it like, I kind of like dressed it up for her. I was like, oh man, the movie was so good, like you love it, you should go and see it. And she was like, okay. So like we went to go see it, and as soon as we sat down in the theater, I was just like, I'm just going to let you know right now, you know, I've been kind of like hyping this movie up a lot, and you might not like it just because of how I built it up so much and everything, but I just need an excuse to come and see it again, and I figured, you know, I'd bring you along just so we can hang out, you know. She was like, well, fuck, all right. But at the end of the movie, when the credits started rolling, she was like, I really enjoyed that movie. That was fantastic. And I was like, right? So in the end, you know, I did the right thing. But, yeah, man. And then, you know, so I saw it twice. I'm still trying to, like, wrap my head around the movie as far as, like, I got my likes, you know, I like the music, like the action, like the characters, love the dialogue. I loved how gritty, like the movie is so many different things meshed into one. And like I said, it hits that perfect balance where it's a crime. I think it's like labeled as a crime thriller. I would say it's like a black comedy crime movie, because it gets dark at times. It's gritty, you know. They don't really hold back on a lot of stuff as far as like, you know, the language, the violence, the attitude of characters and stuff like that. But it's also funny, you know, like there's numerous scenes where it's like you kind of like laugh out loud or get like chuckles here and there, you know. There's like fucked up shit happening on screen. You're just like, huh, it's like, that was pretty funny, you know what I mean? So there's things like that happen. So like I'm trying to like rack my brain because all this good stuff is going in my brain. I'm just like, there's got to be something bad, right? There's got to be at least one thing about that movie that I thought could have been done a little bit better. And after some thought, I mean, I kind of had this when I first saw the movie, but then like the second time, I kind of like changed my mind a little bit on it. But the first time I watched it, I had a little bit of a gripe with how the movie ended. And obviously I can't go into like a huge bit of detail as to what I found wrong with the ending. But the thing is that watching it a second time, I was kind of like racking in my brain. I was just like, well, there's so many different ways that this movie could have ended, but I mean, it's really hard to explain because I don't want to like give a lot of shit away, but it's just the alternative ending that they could have used. I think it's like thinking about where they could have went with the ending, what they actually have on the screen on the final product, I didn't have as much of a problem with after that second viewing and after thinking about it for a while, I was like, I guess that was possibly the best way that you could have ended that movie. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, the gripe that I had is really like a nitpick. You know what I mean? Going back to the characters, like the actors, everyone was on point in this movie. And this movie had like a lot of big names attached to it. You know, you got Kevin Spacey, you got Jamie Foxx, you got John Berthal, John Hamm, you know what I'm saying? You got so many big names in there, and they could have just like got to the point where they could have just showed up for work one day, phoned it in, and went home and collected the check and called it a day and move on to the next project, right? But I feel like everybody was on point. They really like did a good job at fleshing out the characters. Like I said, it's not like when you go into some of the characters, like they kind of get into their backstories a little bit, and it's not like this grandiose thing. It is really simple, but just the way the actors portray the characters on screen just makes them that more intriguing, you know, which I was very happy with. Like, there's some characters that are like not necessarily cameos, but they're not on the screen as much as I would have liked them to be, but they make the most of what they have with the time that they have on screen, which I really appreciate, and I was very happy to see. So I don't know, man, like at the end of the day, dude, there's really nothing wrong I can find with this movie, dude. At the end of the day, overall, like once again, movie fantastic, spectacular, you know, like believe the hype. If you hear people like just jonesing out over this movie, like just believe it. If you haven't seen it yet, go and see it right away. It's definitely worth seeing in theaters. It's definitely worth like checking out. Like when it comes out on video, don't even rent it. Don't wait for it to come out on cable. Just fucking buy that shit. I'm definitely gonna buy it when it comes out. It's definitely getting added to my collection for sure. But yeah, I feel like this is a must-see movie. Is, you know, I don't know. It's gonna be a really hard time trying to judge like movie of the year, because this is definitely a movie of the year contender for me. But yeah, Baby Driver, dude, like definitely go check that movie out as soon as possible if you haven't already. Edgar Wright does it again. Now, here's what we're gonna do. I got one more movie scene that I want to reenact before I get into this next movie that I have to review. Because the thing is, this next movie that I have to review is a little unconventional. Some people may not like it, which is why I'm going to put it at the very end of the video, because if you don't want to like listen to it or check it out, you can check out and don't have to worry about it, okay? But this is something that I have to do because it's episode 30, it's Triple X, you know, I feel like I got to do this review at the end of the video. But I'm going to do you a favor. For anyone who doesn't want to see that, you can check out. But before you do, let me just like go over the whole contest thing that I was talking to you about way earlier in this video or podcast, whatever you want to call it. All right, so so far I've reenacted two scenes from movies, two different movies earlier. I'm about to do one more. Now keep in mind, these are scenes from three different movies. They are not three scenes from the same movie. There are three different movies, okay? So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do this last reenactment, and then I'm going to come back, and then what's going to happen is when all is said and done, I need you to retweet or repost episode 30 of Movie Chewsday on whatever social media thing that you use. You're gonna retweet it or repost it, right? I would prefer that you do it either on Twitter or Instagram, because then I can actually see like the notification that someone like did it. You know what I mean? If you're gonna do it on like Facebook or like Snapchat or something like that, it's just, I have a Snapchat, but I don't really understand how Snapchat works. So like you can test your luck on that if you want. I don't have a Facebook, so if you want to repost it on Facebook, you can go right ahead, but you gotta show me some kind of proof that you reposted it, you know? And if you want to like post it up for a few seconds just to like kind of show me that you actually did it and then delete it, you can go and do that too. But I need you to repost it.
You need to give me some kind of proof that you did it. And then you need to tell me what the 3 movies are that I reenacted in this video for you. Okay? And then what's going to happen is if more than one person does it, then I'm just going to like put your names in the hat. And I'm going to randomly draw it on either the next video or the video after that, or however long it takes for people to do this. And you will win a prize. It's going to be a box. Okay? Just imagine there's a box in my hands. And my shit is going to be in the box. Not my actual shit, but my shit will be in the box. Okay? Not going to send you shit. I'm just going to send you my shit. You understand? Okay. And that's how and then, you know, and we'll all rejoice and we'll be happy and we'll all look back on this day and remember how we celebrate episode 30 on Movie Chewsday. One of the best movie review shows on the internet or just around, period. But yeah, so those are rules. Repost this video. Tell me what the 3 movies are that I reenacted, and then I will randomly choose the winner. To make it easier for me, if you're going to do it on Instagram or Twitter, which is what I prefer, make sure that you put hashtag Movie Chewsday, okay? Or do hashtag Movie Chewsday XXX. We could do that. Just do one of those hashtags so that way it'll be easier for me to find it. I'll get the notification and shit, and then, you know, we'll be all good. You know, you can do it on SoundCloud too. If you got SoundCloud, you can do it there. But just remember to send me some proof. All the information to get in contact with me is below in the comments section, okay? You got the Twitter, which is at the Chewels. That's TheChewels. And then on Instagram, it's ChewVision, spelled exactly how it sounds, ChewVision. And then there's my email where you can like if you're gonna do it on Facebook, just send me like proof or something, you know, and just email me and be like, hey, like here's the proof that I reposted it, and these are the 3 movies that you reenacted, and you can send that to Chewels and the numbers 8 and 5 at gmail.com. Chewels85 at gmail.com. So yeah, so we'll do that, and now we're gonna get into the last movie reenactment, and good luck to you all. For anyone who's checking out right now, good luck to you. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the views. Thank you for the listens and all that good stuff. Thank you for the word of mouth, whatever you're doing. Thank you just for like lending me your ears or just your time in general. Oh yeah, and you can, well, can you repost stuff on YouTube? I don't know. You can do it on YouTube as well. If you find some way to do it on YouTube, you can do that. But I don't know. Just find some way to repost it. One more thing as well. Remember that, something to remember to give you more incentive to actually enter into this contest. The last time I tried to do something like this, and this was on a completely different video that wasn't Movie Chewsday, I tried to do like a little mini contest, and nobody did it, okay? And judging from the numbers that I get, nobody might not do this one. So your chances increase. Like, you could be the only one to do it. So like, let's say the deadline will be till I post the next video, right? And let's say you're the only one who did it. You could win. You could win right then and there. It'd be easy, okay? And it'd be worth it too, because I make good shit. Real good shit. Oh yeah, and also too, if you're like my friend or family member, just anyone who can actually directly get into contact with me on a cell phone or on a game system, that ain't gonna work, okay? Don't cheat. We gotta keep this fair, all right? I didn't catch up with all the fucking videos on YouTube just so you all could cheat. I'm trying to keep this fair for everybody, okay? So you gotta follow the rules like everybody else. Anyway, here's the next clue. That was Movie Chewsday. Now is just another day for anyone checking out right now. What are you smiling about?
Dude, I almost had you.
Almost had me? You never had me. You never had your car. Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100 shot of Nas didn't blow the welds on the intake. Almost had me? Now me and the mad scientist gotta rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you just fried. Ask any racer, any real racer. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. Woo! Yeah, that's right. You tell them. All right. So to all my hardcore peoples, okay, the ones who stuck with me to the very end, I appreciate you too. I love you all equally, but you know I appreciate you all for staying. Now, I don't really feel like I have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're underage, man, like, why the fuck are you watching this shit, man? This shit ain't work safe. This ain't parent safe. If you got overprotective parents, like, you shouldn't be watching this. And especially for this next review, you definitely shouldn't be watching this, okay? But we're about to get into it. And anyone who's asking, why am I doing this? I got to, okay? It's episode 30. I do Roman numerals. It started out as a Star Wars thing with the Roman numerals, and as I kept going up and up and up, and I think it was around when I got to like episode 20, I realized there were 2 X's. I was like, oh shit, if I keep going, I'm going to hit episode 30, and it's going to be 3 X's. I need to review a porno, okay? So here we are, episode 30. I'm reviewing the porno. Y'all just go out and deal with it. I gave y'all plenty of chances to run away. It's going to happen. Now, here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to be talking about Oversnatch, a XXX porn parody. Why? Because I don't really keep up with porn the way I used to, man. I mean, I just go on the like streaming sites and watch it there, and that's about it. And that's all just like scenes and stuff like that. They rarely put like a full movie up for me to watch, so I don't know like what new shit is out. I feel really bad because, you know, it's been a minute since I paid for porn, but when you think about it, like, porn is fucking expensive, okay? And I spent a shitload of money in my younger days on it, so I feel like I can get a little bit of a cushion here for, you know, my lack of purchasing porn. I feel really bad, and I plan to, like, rectify that in the near future, okay? But for right now, just vibe with me, okay? So, like, I heard about this movie a while ago. I mean, obviously, you know, Overwatch is a pretty big game. I would say was, but I still think it's actually a pretty big game. I still play it, as you can see. So obviously I gotta talk about it. But I was under the impression that this was actually a movie, and that's why I'm shooting up the bunny ears when I say that. I thought it was actually a movie to where there were like numerous scenes that they were going to do and just parody Overwatch. Apparently, it is just one scene. If I am wrong, you need to let me know now. But I've scoured the internet trying to find this movie, trying to purchase it. And I couldn't purchase an actual movie. It was always just a scene, right? I even went on Brazzers, where I think it's originated from. And it was just like the scene of Widowmaker and Reaper like fucking, right? So, anyway, I watched it, and, I mean, it was alright. I mean, I don't want to take it too seriously, because it is a porn scene, or a movie, you know, but still, it's like, this is a property that I'm very passionate about, so, you know, I expect you to do it right. So, basically, as you know, like I always say, back with, like, comic book movies and stuff, it doesn't need to be page for page on the screen, and this falls in line with it, where Oversnatch doesn't need to be scene for scene Overwatch on a porn set, right? But like, I feel like when you say that it's a XXX porn parody, and you're clearly parodying a game, a very popular game, I expect it to at least be funny, and it wasn't that funny. I mean, I guess you could laugh at the outfits. I mean, you know, Reaper was like, his outfit was actually like pretty decent. Like, I don't know if they actually like sell the Reaper mask in stores, or if that was just like built, like if they just contracted some kind of cosplayer to build the mask or whatever. But it was a really nice looking mask. And then he kind of, you know, Danny D, who plays Reaper, kind of just like does what he can with the trench coats and shit, and got the gauntlets on and everything like that. So like, he at least tried, or at least like his costume designer tried with that character. But then with Aletta Ocean's character, who's playing Widowmaker, hers was a little phoned in. I mean, they tried with her little headgear and all that, but it was just like, I was really unimpressed. But then at the end of the day, with me being a straight male and all, you don't really need to get her shit right, because I guess eventually it's going to end up on the floor anyway, or at least like half of it is going to end up like on the floor, or just like torn to pieces or something like that, which is how it pretty much happened on the scene. So, I mean, I guess you don't need to get hers right that much. And I feel like that was what the costume designer's mindset was when he was doing her costume, because they pretty much did the bare minimum with her character for that scene, where it was just like they just had to make sure that she was dressed in purple and in a skin tight outfit, but you know, they barely tried to get or capture what the actual character is from the game. So costume design is a little meh. The special effects used were surprisingly pretty good. They had a little like battle scene in the beginning of the scene, you know, where they're like shooting at each other, and Danny D is doing his best to imitate Reaper. Like, I don't know if he just like looked up shots of the game or if he actually played the game, but I mean, he did his best. He did a couple of the voice lines. At least I think that was him. It was either him or they had some kind of voiceover doing the voice lines from the game for Reaper. Aletta Ocean, I don't know if she just watched video clips or what. I mean, she kind of had the pose down where she's kind of like walking with the sniper rifle, and she, you know how Widowmaker's got that little twitch, you know, got that ass popping. But I don't know, like, but that opening scene, it was all right. That was actually kind of funny just because of how corny it was. One of the things that I got upset with as well, like as far as like the overall setup of the scene, is like, where the fuck were they at when they were going at it? You know what I mean? It looked like they were in an empty comedy club or some shit, you know? It's just like, there's so many locations that you can use from Overwatch. Like, I figure you could at least like did something with Ilios, something like that. You know, you go into a nice house and just say it's Ilios or whatever, and have them fucking on the couch or something, you know? Like, I don't know, they could have did something, but for them to just be like in an empty stage area, like just on the stage going at it, was just, I was just like, man, I was like, what am I watching right now? It looks like they just put this shit together. It was almost like, because you know, like, I don't know if you know or not, but like when Overwatch came out, it was like this really big commotion, like just everybody playing this game. There was all kinds of fan art. There was like tons of like porn, like Overwatch porn on the internet. You know, I think it got to a point where it was like a couple of the Overwatch porns were one of the like most viewed videos on like Pornhub or something like that. But obviously the porn industry got a hold of this information and was like, hey, like, there's a lot of Overwatch porn on our, you know, going on in the industry right now. Like, we need to fucking capitalize on this shit. And I feel like they maybe just watched a couple of like videos of Overwatch and just threw something together in a matter of like days, you know, and just like put a scene together. I was like, there could have been a little bit more TLC done with this parody, okay? I'm expecting like Pirates quality parodies, you know? Like, remember that movie Pirates, the porn movie? Like, that was a well-produced movie. And I was expecting that when I heard that there was like a legit Overwatch porn parody movie, okay? So, then there's that. As far as like, you know, the fucking and everything, it was alright, you know. I know who Danny D is. I know who Aletta Ocean is. I've seen their scenes in previous movies. Notice I'm not doing the bunny ears because they actually like do movies, or at least like scenes in movies. I've seen their work before. And seeing their work in Oversnatch, I was just like, you know what? You guys are capable of so much more, okay? You're just, right now, you're just collecting the check. You're just going with it. I mean, props to Danny D for doing the whole thing with the mask on. I think he only like lifted it up once to do the whole like eating out scene, whatever. But like for the most part, he kept the mask on the whole time. He slowly had to like strip out of his outfit, you know, which is understandable because it looked like it was leather, but he had like a big ass trench coat and shit. So all that motion, you know, all that fucking and shit is gonna get hot. So I don't blame him for like taking that shit off. But I don't know, man. It just looked like they were phoning it in. They're capable of so much more, but you know, it was all right. You know, if I was like desperate or just like bored or feeling lazy, like I could probably like rub one out to it. You know, I don't know, maybe. But other than that, dude, like it was okay. Like I said, they're just capable of so much more. But at the end of the day, dude, like I don't know, man. I think Brazzers, ain't y'all like the #1 porn like site on the internet or something like that? Like the #1 paid porn site. I could have sworn you were. So y'all got to be making some bank. I know y'all got bank, dude. Y'all can do better. Let's do a sequel. Let's do like Oversnatch 2, Electric Boogaloo, or whatever you want to call the sequel. You know, and let's get like some more shit in there. Once again, hit up your boy. I'll give out some pointers. You know, I play a shitload of Overwatch. I got a lot of hours logged into that game. I will help you guys out. I'll be your consultant. No, I don't want to be in the movie because somebody doesn't understand that porn is a job and not a pleasure type thing. I mean, it's kind of pleasure, but it's mostly a job, goddammit. You know, I'm sure fucking Aletta Ocean don't want to have sex with me. Look at me. You know? But anyway, like, bring your boy in. I'll consult. You know, I'll do the casting. You know, I'll pick the girls out for you. I'll pick the dudes out. You know, I'll you know, I'm an artist. I'll do the conceptual work and draw up some costumes for you. I'll storyboard some shit. I'll do it all, okay? But I don't work for free. But anyway, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're an Overwatch fan, I'd say don't watch it just because you might be just as disappointed as I am. I mean, unless you're just easily amused with, like, naked girls and boys. I'm not, just because I've watched so much porn in my lifetime, and then I am an artist, so I am used to seeing people naked. So, like, it's kind of hard to get me, like, going with a lot of that shit. I do appreciate a naked woman, but at the same time, it's like, this ain't really nothing new to me, you know? Not trying to brag or anything, I'm just saying. But, yeah, it's not really worth watching, but, I mean, you know, throw Brazzers a couple bucks, man, and go check it out if you're that curious. But if you want, there's, like, other Overwatch porn around the internet that is better than Oversnatch, the porn parody. It's like computer generated type stuff. Like, that's the stuff I've seen, you know, and they got what? They got Pharah, they got Sombra, they got Tracer, Widowmaker. I think Reaper's in there. They got all that shit, you know. So I would say go check those out. One more thing, I will say this, like, props to them actually using Reaper and Widowmaker. I'm trying to, like, think about other characters that they could have used where it could have been a little easier to get like recreate their costumes, or at least like get close to recreating their costumes. I don't know if it was like a convenience type thing, but it is kind of cool that they chose Reaper and Widowmaker, because I don't know what's going on with them as far as like Overwatch lore, but with the short videos that I've seen that Blizzard has released, Reaper and Widowmaker do work together a lot. I feel like they're partners in crime, you know, and they both kind of got that whole I'm dead but I'm not really dead thing, but I look dead type of thing going on, like kind of dreary look thing. So with them hanging out with each other so much, it's not hard for me to imagine that in between missions they'll, you know, just to kill time, to be like, you know, like, you want to fuck, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, this is going on for way too long, but, you know, I just felt like I had to do this because it's episode 30, XXX, you just gotta deal with it. Anyway, that's about it for me. Once again, appreciate the love and support that you've all given me, the views, the listens, the downloads, the reposts, the likes. You know, be cool to get some comments, you know, whether I'm doing good or whether I'm doing bad. You know, I need a little bit of feedback going on here, but for the most part, I appreciate the time that you've been giving me up to this point. That was episode 30, and this is off to 30 more, so let's get to it. Until then,
That was Movie Chewsday. Now it's just another day. I'm out.
And it was just another day, yeah.
Just another day.
Until I went to the movies, and now it's a movie Tuesday.
Just another day.
A movie Tuesday. Until a movie Tuesday.